Hello, I am here to talk to you about the citation styles and the style guides that you can find on the library's homepage. I've already pointed you to where you need to look on the homepage in the announcement that includes the link for this video. So I'm going to offer only a glimpse of it here, and then I'm going to refer to it through the rest of this conversation. So you probably want to go print this before you watch the rest of the video. And anytime you're watching one of these videos, you can hit the space bar to pause it, and then come back to it when you're ready, like when you have the sheet in hand. So one thing you'll notice about this reference list example sheet is that it goes through different kinds of sources. You need to make sure that you're using as your guide the example that's appropriate to what you are reading. And for this project, you are reading journal articles. There are two different APA examples for journal articles. One is journal articles with continuous paging, and one is journal articles when each issue begins with page 1. Forgive me, there are 3 actually, because the one underneath is journal articles from a library subscription database with a DOI. So I'm going to give you a rundown of what the differences are there, and then quickly walk you through the things that people screw up on a lot. You don't need to really worry about continuous pagination or beginning with page 1. What that's referring to is whether or not your journal every year starts paginating with the first issue and then continues so that issue 1 ends on page 237 and issue 2 begins on page 238 all the way through the year. And that's usually when they're going to bind it as one thing at the end of the year, so it becomes like a book because it's continuously paginated, or whether or not each issue is going to begin with page 1 and end where it ends, and next month will begin with page 1 and end where it ends. There is zero difference in how you would go about writing the citation between those two. Those are delineated for you so you would understand why you might see a journal article that's on page 1273. See, that doesn't make any sense in a regular journal. So that's why this delineates those two for you, that there's 2 different styles of pagination that are used. They do not change at all the way you cite the source. The journal article from a database with a DOI is also no different in the rules for how you would write the citation. It's just that if you have a DOI, you use it. If you don't have a DOI, you don't worry about it. If you have a DOI, then this gives you the example of what that DOI inclusion would look like. As far as how people screw this up, here are the big heavy hitters. Please notice that for all 3 of the journal article citation examples, you have last names and then first and middle initials. You do not have any first names or middle names. So one of the most common ways that students screw this up is they remember their days with MLA and they include the author's first or middle name or both. And you simply don't do that in APA because we're trying to make sure we don't include any accidental gender bias in our understanding of the material that we're reading. Note that the first line is against the left margin, and every line after the first line is indented 5 spaces by hitting the tab key. If you are having trouble getting that to happen, what you need to do is go to the end of the first line, put your cursor there, hit enter, and now that breaks apart the first and the second or subsequent lines. It's called widow orphan. So you no longer have stuff happening to the second line just because it happened to the first line or vice versa. Any command you give can be separate for the first line relative to the second line and beyond. Note that the article's title is capitalized in a very particular way. The first word of the title and the first word of any subtitle, the thing that comes after the colon, is capitalized. Also, proper nouns like the name China is capitalized, but nothing else in the article title is capitalized. First word of the title, first word of the subtitle, and any proper nouns, and that's it. Then in your journal title, please notice that you do have standard capitalization and it's in italics. Nothing so far has been in quotation marks and nothing will be for a journal article. The italics extend not just to the journal title, but also to the journal issue number. So the issue number is in italics. In our example with continuous paging, that number is 93. Please notice that's in italics. If you turn and look at the example for when pages begin with 1, you'll see that the issue number 49 is in italics. And then it also includes the volume number, and that's in parentheses, but it's not in italics. So that's tricky. People often screw that up. Finally, you need a comma before the page range, and you do need an actual range of pages. You don't just put the total number of pages or what number it starts on. You don't use PP or P. You just put the numerical page it begins on, in our example here, 9, and then dash, meaning through, and then the final page number, which is 16. And the citation ends always with a period, unless the DOI is the last thing. Scooch on down to the journal article from a database, and you'll see that the period is after the page range 337 through 341, but then the DOI follows that period and does not have an additional period. So hopefully this was helpful. I am going to be this nitpicky when I'm looking at your work, and I do expect you to revise the work after this citation. For citation 1, no. And so you definitely want to go make these changes now, because annotation 1 does not need to be re-uploaded, revised, but it will be part of your annotated bibliography, and so it'll need to be revised for that. If you have any questions, let me know.